Ah, yes, big Wednesday on Schein Time. My guests today are the hosts of the #1 fantasy football podcast in the game, the Fantasy Footballers. They're going to join me shortly to get everyone set for our fantasy drafts and have a lot of laughs along the way. Then, of course, reality football. Is Christian McCaffrey jealous of all the other running backs who just got paid? Is Baker Mayfield right that the Bucs are going to have a shocking season? Are the Chargers doomed to be thwarted by injuries again? And how long until an NFL team lives outside the United States? Plus, Fernando Tatis, the Yankees, the Dodgers. What's better job, athlete or actor? Schein Time starts right now.
Don't stop. Keep it coming, baby. Don't stop.
Pro Football Talk said, speculating that Christian is out of practice due to contract issues. What's your comment on that?
People make a lot of assumptions, and that would be one that they're wrong on.
Is there a timeline for him to come back? When do you think he might be able to practice again?
I think if it wasn't Christian and we were in a game week, I think he would play today.
Is it related to the calf or Achilles?
No, just some tightness.
That, of course, 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan with his really cool August mustache, responding to the rumors swirling around Christian McCaffrey and the extended absence from practice being contract-related. This, of course, in the wake of several big money deals for running backs that were inked last week. And Shanahan says nothing to see here. He's just banged up. It's just August. It's just training camp. And if it was a regular season situation, if it was week 3 of the NFL campaign, Christian McCaffrey would be practicing and Christian McCaffrey would be on the field. Now, Christian McCaffrey has missed 5 straight practices. And the Niners had 21 players miss or leave practice this Sunday due to injury. 21 players. But let's start with CMC, because Christian McCaffrey is still unbelievable. And for a while, he was in my top 5 and got one of my top 5 votes last year for NFL MVP, because I think Christian McCaffrey is out of this world. He's tough, he's fast, he's physical, he's speedy, catches the ball out of the backfield, moves the chain, scores touchdowns. He is everything you want in a football player. I am going to choose to believe Kyle Shanahan. I'm going to choose to believe it. Look at these numbers for McCaffrey, and this is why he was on my list for MVP and why I voted him 5th for the MVP last season. Look at the rushing yards, look at the catches, look at the receiving yards, look at the total touchdowns. And then at the bottom, he played all 17 games. This after he was injured the year before. But anytime Christian McCaffrey is not on the field, you kind of get a little bit nervous if you're a fan of the San Francisco 49ers. Now, in a few weeks coming up on Schein Time, we will make all of our picks and predictions for the upcoming NFL season. Now, I always say, for us, during an offseason, during preseason, during training camp, we make conversation. We tell you we love this team, we hate this team. We're stuck in the middle with this team. There's an I don't know quotient. And then you see injuries and issues, and then you lock in your preseason picks. The Niners right now are a zany conundrum. The San Francisco 49ers upside is to win a Super Bowl this year. Not going to bat an eye if we're doing Schein Time live in Los Angeles all week leading up to the Super Bowl, and we're talking about the Niners in the big game. I'm also not going to bat an eye if the San Francisco 49ers miss the playoffs. They are one of those teams that, based upon age and injury, they're all over the map. And even Shanahan, obviously, missing time with his car accident, that factors in too. I love Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan is one of the reasons why I think the world of San Francisco, because, and you've seen it throughout his history, he gets teams to achieve and overachieve. Doesn't matter who's injured. It could be McCaffrey, could be Brock Purdy, could be Nick Bosa, could be Fred Warner, could be George Kittle. It doesn't matter. Kyle Shanahan, a Kyle Shanahan coach team, is always going to win games and be ready to rock and roll. The problem is you have McCaffrey sitting out for 5 practices. Okay, in isolation, it's August, you put him in bubble wrap, it's between week 1 and week 2 of the preseason, not a big deal. But Mike Evans has his lower body wrapped. And Nick Bosa coming off of major surgery. He hasn't practiced after the surgically repaired knee since August the 3rd. And Ricky Pearsall's already out for the year. And this is where you start having the conversation of, okay, is this team going to be ready to rock and roll? George Kittle is not 100%. Is he going to be on the field for week 1 in Australia when the 49ers take on the LA Rams in a massive ball game on the first Thursday of the NFL season? So that's why this is such a big deal here and a big topic for conversation, because it's not just McCaffrey in isolation. And look, right now, today, I don't have a great vibe about San Francisco. And I acknowledge if I don't take them to make the playoffs, I could look like a horse's ass at the end of the season and they find the way to win a championship. And I think the world of Kyle Shanahan. I'm rooting for him, rooting for John Lynch. I think that these guys are phenomenal, and they should have won a Super Bowl with the rosters they put together a couple times against Kansas City. Jimmy Garoppolo missed Emmanuel Sanders wide open. Then, obviously, they didn't sign Tom Brady. They make the stupid, asinine first-guess Trey Lance deal, which made absolutely no sense. We saw what happened a couple years ago against Kansas City in the Vegas Super Bowl. Should have won that Super Bowl. I refuse to say that the window is closed. I will not say that, because I have so much respect for Lynch and so much respect for Shanahan. And this team is loaded with great players. I mean, think about this. Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. These guys Mike Evans. These guys are Hall of Famers. They could easily be in Canton one day and no one's going to fight with me or bat an eye. That's what we're talking about. But everyone needs to stay healthy at the right time. I am going to take Shanahan at his word. This is not an absence that is contractually related. Now, I think that is the case. Having said that, I would like the 49ers to be whole at some point as we get closer to the start of the 2026 NFL season. Speaking of contract disputes, real or imagined, Baker Mayfield is not too happy about his contract situation in Tampa, as previously discussed here on Schein Time. But that has not curbed his enthusiasm for the Buccaneers this season.
I think we're going to shock a lot of people this year, and so I'm excited to just get on the road and do that.
Anything else?
You're going to surprise people when you say you're going to shock people?
Yeah, I mean, listen, embellish it. There's no embellishing. I think you can't avoid it. There's the TVs everywhere. I think everybody's. Yeah. Hell yeah, I am. Everybody's picking us probably to have a losing record, so we'll see.
Listen, as Baker said, he's got TVs. He subscribes to our new YouTube page at Schein Time. He's aware of what everybody's saying in terms of the Buccaneers and how we anticipate they're going to take a step back. But for the sake of fairness, and I can speak for me and for us here, listen, the fact that the Bucs didn't reward Baker Mayfield with a contract, that's part of it. Now, clearly, on the flip side of Baker not getting paid, Chippy Baker's always the best Baker. We could go back to Cleveland. We could go back to when he was cut by Carolina, had the cup of coffee in L.A., and then goes to Tampa. And I love Baker Mayfield. I'm a huge Baker Mayfield fan. I think Baker Mayfield in Tampa, best version of Baker Mayfield we've seen. And I love Jason Light, their general manager, and I love the Buccaneers, and I love how they constantly draft and develop really good players, sign them to second contracts. They're fantastic at that. But Mike Evans left. He went to San Francisco. Emeka Buka has not been 100%. Vita Vea is in the middle of a contractual dispute. Levante David retired. And did I mention? They didn't pay Baker Mayfield. Offensive coaching staff is not what it was. And I just don't see Baker this season duplicating what he's been able to do with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Part of the problem, too, Todd Bowles. And I respect the hell out of Todd Bowles. I don't think that he has inspired in any way, shape, or form. And I just don't believe that he's the kind of coach who gets this kind of group with these aforementioned questions and certainly maximizes the talent. Now, the flip side is, and Baker says we're going to shock a lot of people, there will be no shock value when it comes to the NFC South. Every team sticks, right? And this is, again, why you don't lock in picks and predictions until the beginning of September. Because today, Alvin Kamara is going to be out. So that news broke today. He's going to be out for 4 weeks on the heels of Jordan Tyson being out to start his NFL career. So the Saints have to deal with massive injuries. The Atlanta Falcons, we've been through their follies and their issues and quarterback situation and suspensions and signature defensive players missing the entire season when you take a look at Walker. The Falcons have questions. Carolina's got a really good team that won the division last year. Their quarterback is Bryce Young. So, look, no one's going to sit here and be stunned if the Buccaneers win the division, make the playoffs, host a playoff game, because 9 wins might ultimately get it done. But I'll tell you, Baker's, he's playing it. He's feeling it. Baker's pissed he didn't get paid. Baker deserved better from the organization. Baker earned that contract. Chippy Baker is the best Baker, but I just think that right now he's trying to spin it in the court of public opinion. Nobody will be quote-unquote shocked if the Buccaneers win the worst division in the NFL.
Shouldn't be able to do this unless you have an absolute cannon at quarterback.
Wow. That's up.
What in the world was that?
I could have made that throw. I know I could have.
What in the world? Oh, man.
Now, you can see right there, Chargers offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel is fired up about Justin Herbert. And you could also read the comments here to ESPN's Chris Rim, where he, at the end of the day, is looking for year 2 results in year number 1. Justin Herbert's been everything that I've hoped for and more, and I can't say enough positive things. Where Herbert is far past where quarterbacks are usually in year 1. And when we're talking about year 1, we're talking about year 1 of a Mike McDaniel system, right? And year 1 to year 2. And, you know, Tua Tagovailoa as an example. Say what you want about Tua. He became a Pro Bowler year 2 that he had Mike McDaniel as his offensive play caller when he was the head coach with the Miami Dolphins. Year 2, Matt Ryan, when Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniel were in Atlanta. Matt Ryan won an MVP at the best season of his, what I believe should be a Hall of Fame career. And Mike McDaniel worked with Matt Ryan on his footwork, wants to work with Justin Herbert on his footwork. And I think, in theory, the Chargers and Justin Herbert primed for a great season. But damn it, are you kidding me? Only the Chargers. Only the Chargers. If it wasn't for bad luck, this team wouldn't have any at all. Everything was breaking right. Vibes are high. McDaniel talking about Herbert. They had a killer offseason. Love what they did with Njoku. Love what they did with an offensive lineman, signing their incredible center, Tyler Biadasz. And then the report today. Biadasz out indefinitely, suffering damage to his ACL and additional injuries to his left knee. Damn it! Damn it! There's nothing that bothers me more than training camp injuries. Fans hate it. It's terrible for teams. It kills buzz, kills esteem. Jim Harbaugh earlier today was on Pat McAfee's Outstanding Show. Harbaugh looked crestfallen when Pat and the boys asked him a question about Biadasz. I mean, when they signed him, if you remember, Schein Time, when we talked about this move, I said this is one of the best moves of the entire offseason. Tyler Biadasz, getting him from Washington, and Joe Ortiz, the great GM for the LA Chargers, prioritized him. This was incredible. Not to mention the fact that, you know, you get Mike McDaniel, so you got your house in order, and Marion Hampton year 2, and he's going to be healthy, and the weapons are there, and Harbaugh's unbelievable, and something's off with the Chiefs, and everything was coming up Chargers. And, you know, you think about the 3 new people in Herbert's life. You got McDaniel, you got Biadasz, and he's engaged to Madison Beer. And it was all there. It was all set up for success. Rashawn Slater, who missed the entire season, the left tackle, he's healthy. He and Joe Alt didn't play it down together last year. Alt finally healthy. Everything was set up. Herbert obviously was horrendous once again in the playoffs last year. But it was all set up for Herbert to have the best year of his career. Now, I want to make sure I don't go too nuts. They can still win the division. It's all still there for the Chargers. But I want you to look at this. Justin Herbert, since he came into the league, in terms of at the end of the day, Justin Herbert being hit. Justin Herbert being sacked. Look at this. This is not exaggeration. This is not hyperbole. We are talking about and this is a monster of an athlete. It's not like he's a statue back there. Joe Burrow is not a mobile quarterback, right? Justin Herbert since 2020, most sacks taken in the NFL. Damn it! I hate this. I hate this for Biotish. I hate this for Herbert. I hate this for the long-suffering Charger fans. Yeah, it just feels like every year something happens, right? I mean, last year it was Slater and it was Alt. Prior years you've seen Derwin James. You've seen other injuries and issues. And I'm trying hard here not to overreact. And I will take a breath. I'll pick up the pieces. I still think that this roster is better than Kansas City's. I think Denver has to come back into the fold and back into the equation here because you're expecting, if you believe in the Chargers, you think Justin Herbert takes another step forward. He has to in big games, crunch time games, playoff games. And I'm a big believer in Herbert's talent. He's a quarterback lab guy. You go into the laboratory, you design a quarterback, you come out of the lab with Justin Herbert. But he needs an offensive line. And if his center is out for the season, man, that is about as rough as it gets if you are a fan of the LA Chargers. One last topic before we get to our boys, the fantasy footballers. Roger Goodell has turned some heads with what he had to say in an interview with a German news outlet. At some point, there will be NFL teams outside the United States. I have no doubt about it that it will happen one day. Well, I think Roger Goodell said that because it's fact. And I think, smartly, Goodell and the NFL put their finger out the proverbial window to see which way the wind was blowing in the court of public opinion. So I'm in favor of it. I know people are going nuts about it, but this has felt inevitable for a long time. And I think we're going to see an NFL team that will call home abroad. I think that specific location will be London. I think an NFL team in London would be unbelievable. I think that, the way Jacksonville has been positioned there, the Jaguars have been positioned there, I think that it would surprise nobody if the Jaguars ended up moving to London full time. And if not the Jaguars, an expansion team, another team in the NFL, an existing team. But I firmly believe that this will happen. And look, I've come full circle on international games. I think the league does an excellent job with it. It's a great way to bring in more money. It's a great way to expand the game globally. As long as 1 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Eastern time, they have, the windows that are holy for NFL Sundays. They still have enough games and inventory. Then I'm in favor of the games that are, international games at 9 in the morning on a Sunday. And we've kind of been waiting for this for a long time for a team to be in London. I think London's an amazing sports city. I think London's in general fantastic. I think the way that, teams fly nowadays, it's fine. I mean, you lie down in business class or a private jet and everything's okay. Now, there will be obstacles, a street free agent, who's in the United States on a Wednesday or Thursday, if you have an injury, getting them to London for an NFL Sunday. But that's something they're going to have to figure out. But I give the NFL credit. I really do. I think that a team in London, especially, you can't do this in the other sports, right? Football's once a week. Now, you're going to have to rearrange and rethink the schedule, right, in terms of who's home, bye weeks, short weeks, travel, all that goes into the mix. But the league is great when it comes to things like that. So I get it. I agree with it. And when the commissioner says no doubt, yeah, you bet your bottom dollar we're going to get a team outside the United States. And by the way, that means eventually we're going to get a Super Bowl outside the United States. Schein Time live in London in 5 years. I'll be there. Coming up, you see them right there. The men are going to tell you all you need to know and then some about fantasy football as we get closer to kickoff. The fantasy footballers are here with facts and fun. Come back on Schein Time. My guests today are the premier voices in fantasy football analysis. The fantasy footballers, Mike Wright, Jason Moore, Andy Holloway. The #1 fantasy football podcast. Catch them, as I do, on SiriusXM, on YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Their Ultimate Draft Kit, which includes their tier-based rankings, which I'm obsessed with, 100-plus player profiles, and other resources to help you win your league. It's available now at thefantasyfootballers.com. Fellas, welcome to Schein Time.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
All right, let's start with this, because everyone wants to know how you decide a draft order. I want you to look at this video of a Bills fan who gets DJ Moore to decide his league's draft order. I'm obsessed with this. Is this the coolest way, Mike, we'll start with you, you've ever seen a draft order decided? What's your favorite way to go about it?
So that probably is the coolest. I mean, I can't imagine if you're a Bills fan that I don't think you're ever going to top that. I like the, you can have, I've seen people do like March Madness brackets or, other wagering on other things. I like the, if you're just from scratch, I like kind of the obstacle course type of idea where, just we go old school. The first thing, you got to put the head down on the bat and spin around 10 times and then navigate through just a bunch of different physical obstacles while you're either dizzy or perhaps you've made people imbibe in certain libations and just have a good time about it, because fantasy football at its core, we can get lost in our nerd stuff sometimes. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to enhance your Sunday and make just the NFL better. You care more about games. You care about the random Thursday night game at the end of the season between two absolute stinkers of teams. But you got fantasy players out there, so whatever is fun, and the obstacle course thing's fun to me.
Listen, that guy is never going to forget it. My son is in a league, and he's done it since 3rd grade. And I always get an NFL player to pick the draft order. I've had Bijan pick, who gets the top pick. Pat Surtain do it. Justin Jefferson, the kids couldn't get enough. So that's pretty cool for them. That's about as great as it gets. I don't know about the obstacle course. I mean, I have trouble, walking and chewing gum at the same time. But I like where your brain's at. Jason, let me ask you this, and I want everyone to chime in here. What's your most irrational fantasy football take that you have, that is out there, but you study it, you have the numbers, the facts, the figures, but you just can't shake it?
Yeah, it's really stupid. But I think Geno Smith is going to be really great for the Jets. for fantasy.
I agree with you.
For fantasy, he's going to be bad. I'm sorry, but for fantasy, you're talking about a team last year that they didn't throw for 2,500 yards as a team. Geno can get it done, so I'm big on Garrett Wilson this year. I think that his floor is super high. He's not being drafted like a superstar, and he could be a superstar. I just think Geno's enough. He is enough for fantasy, and it feels irrational. But that's where I am. I feel dumb, but there I am.
All right,
and I'm
Andy,
probably right.
Andy, how about you?
Yeah, I think it's actually a similar vein for me in the sense that I think, against my better judgment and my hometown team, that the Arizona Cardinals offense is going to be great this year. I think Jacoby Brissett, Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride, Jeremiah Love. I think that for a team that's projected to win 3.5 games, for fantasy, we want you want the yards to pile up, and I think Marv's going to have a better year and redeem a little bit of that draft stock and that excitement. I don't like it. We've said enough negative things about the Cardinals on the show for the last 6 months and probably most of our lives. It's time for me to come out and publicly say I just irrationally think it's going to work out for fantasy for the Cardinals.
Christian Watson is going to win fantasy football leagues, a player who has never played a full season, a player who has never surpassed 620 receiving yards, but out of the Green Bay Packers with the way that with Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks out, the rotation of the wide receivers I think goes way down. I think the running game isn't as strong this year with Jacobs being the inefficiencies creeping up and the age getting up there. And Christian Watson is the real deal. He just hasn't been able to stay on the field, and I think that we're finally going to get it.
All right, I'm with you on Geno. I'm with you on the Arizona Cardinals. I'm not with you on Watson. I do think Marv is going to end up being the guy. I mean, of all things, that's the one that I disagree with, but that's why
funny.
It's an irrational take. All right, which NFL coach do you liken yourself to as a fantasy manager? Let's go around the horn on this one.
I know mine.
Yeah, I've got mine as well. I'll kick it off first.
You might have to tell me mine.
Yeah, we might. I'm going to go with Sean Payton. I think Sean Payton is my comp because he's really good. He's not necessarily likable. His ego's out of control. He can win without grace, and I can too. I can too. So that's where it's like he's such a talented coach. And I'm such a talented analyst.
Okay.
So, that's where I comp myself.
I will give you a recent quote from the coach I'm going to comp myself to of, I want to have the highest scoring offense ever, which happens to be the 2013 Denver Broncos. I know how many points per game they scored, and I want to surpass them. I want shutouts. I want blowouts. I'm talking about Ben Johnson of the Chicago Bears, offensive guru. And as of just playing fantasy football, a coach – even whispering that, and not even like this was full. I mean, he's been chest out before. Rip the shirt off, pop that top. When a coach is like, no, we don't want to just win. We want to embarrass people. That's what we're talking about.
I love that. I feel like that's the heart and soul of fantasy football to begin with. I just want to be a coach that has general manager powers. The amount of transactions I make on my fantasy team, I need to have control. Maybe you go back to old school Belichick and getting the moves made that need to happen, but I want general manager powers as a coach.
What is the dumbest thing you've ever convinced yourself was a great fantasy take?
Mine's recent and real bad. Here I said I was a good analyst. I'm about to undo that. I was very in on Caleb Johnson last year. I mean, he was a guy that I.
What team is he on, Jason?
He is currently on the Steelers, last year's rookie, who I do not expect to make the roster. He's been pretty much as bad of an NFL draft pick as possible. He fumbled away a Steelers game last year, has never recovered from that moment. Obviously hasn't done enough in camp, behind the scenes. I don't know who he angered for, in personal relationships. The team went out and then signed Rico Dowdle. They drafted other running backs. I loved him. I mean, I really genuinely put my, flag on. I really believe that Caleb Johnson was a great collegiate running back who was going to translate.
And that's where it's going to stop
to the NFL. And I will take the L on that one. And that's a capital L.
I just remember we're about to do a live show out here in Phoenix.
Oh man, you're probably going to.
And we do a bold prediction every single time we do a live show. And we were just looking back at some of our old ones. And, boy, I got up on a stage in front of a bunch of people and told them that the Jets were going to win the Super Bowl a couple of years ago.
Was that the Rodgers year?
It was the Rodgers year.
I had them in the Super Bowl that year. I don't think that's crazy. Listen, I still stand by that take. Like, sometimes something doesn't work out.
You never know.
4 plays in, we'll never know. We weren't wrong. It was incomplete.
That's it.
That's right.
I think – it's recency bias, and you guys seem to think it's going to be okay. But we told everyone that there is no possible way that Marvin Harrison Jr. is a bust in the NFL or for fantasy football. Maybe he's not as great as we think he could be, but it has been
it's getting closer.
It's been a disaster
He's
based
fixing
off
it
of
this year.
what he was supposed to be so far.
I thought he was an absolute lock. And the Cardinals did too. I mean, I had Monty Austin Ford on my SiriusXM radio show. He basically said as much. I mean, every time he drops a ball, I'm still stunned. I mean, that's where I'm at when it comes to Marv. All right, give us a personal and tell us the reason why I'll never draft this guy again player and what he did to you to become that guy.
I had one that would really hurt me on a personal level. We usually try to forgive
we wear
guys.
our emotions
We
on our
try to
sleeve
forgive
here.
guys, so it's not often that we're like, hey, he's off my board no matter what. But P. Rivers, Phillip Rivers, oh my gosh, dude, I was on the way to fantasy glory. And all I needed, the only thing I needed him to do was not throw like 5 interceptions in a game. That was it. And he couldn't stop. He couldn't stop throwing interceptions. I'm surprised my television made it through that day. I don't know how I didn't throw something at it. I was so infuriated, and I would never at that point ever draft Phillip Rivers again, which turned out to be great for me. Obviously that's a couple years old, but he was nicknamed P. Rivers from that point forward.
It's not a great nickname,
for
Jason.
our show. No,
it's really not.
He deserved
but
every.
that did make for a great episode of the show.
It did.
Do you have somebody in that category, Mike? Because I don't feel like I have a name that sticks out other than
It's tougher because we try to be rational as much as we can and say, like, this is a different year. Whatever that player did to you last year, we just talked about it on today's show, and I brought up, I'm like, all the people who said, I'll never draft Christian McCaffrey again, ever. What he did to me. Whoever drafted McCaffrey last year, I think there's a pretty strong odds that person at least made it to the championship, probably won. The guy who's, like, closest to it, it's DK Metcalf.
I knew that was going to be the
on
name.
the Steelers, because I've never been a Metcalf guy. Like, I don't think he's bad by any stretch. I never bought into the hype the way that people really did.
I'm with
and then he goes to the Steelers. He gets the bag. They back up the truck of gold bullion, and you're thinking he's got to be safe. He has to get so many targets, which is, we search for targets for that volume when we're drafting our fantasy wide receivers. And I got him last year. I said, you know what? I'm gonna bite my tongue on this one. I'm gonna admit maybe I'm wrong here, and I wasn't wrong. DK Metcalf was a disaster last year.
Yeah, I think anytime you have a player that we've talked about on the show as being like they show a tremendous amount of promise, and this is the year it's going to work out. So for years it was Terry McLaurin, or it was DJ Moore, and it was like, the player's great, and then something goes wrong. Mm-hmm. I think without Kenneth Walker moving to Kansas City, he would have been the answer to the question for me. Like, something always goes wrong for Kenneth Walker. So, the careers are not long, but sometimes the burns, they last a couple of seasons.
I started playing fantasy, baseball and football in the 3rd grade. I have a father-son league with my son, who's now 11, going into 6th grade, and they're football obsessed, right? You got 12 kids with their dads. Monday, Labor Day Monday, they have a draft. It's unbelievable. What do you think is the right age to start playing fantasy? And are you ever too old to play fantasy?
Oh, well,
God, never.
I can answer the too old. We have a writer who just shared with us, one of our writers just shared with us that her 92-year-old grandmother was listening to the show and has her draft kit and is all talking smack. So there's definitely not an end cap. I think it's gonna keep you young, and all that emotion will be good.
Keep you sharp. It's good for the mind.
Yeah, I feel like accessibility to it is like it's younger and younger. I think is probably the right answer with like, the tech and just being able to follow it on your iPad or your phone, or like doing that. Like for my kids, I just let it happen, and it seemed like for one of them it didn't that much, and then the other one it was like really into it at about probably that 3rd, 4th, 5th grade level, where the numbers and being able to watch on Sunday, and like I think all the tech integration for fantasy really helps just make it more entertaining and fun, and they've got stuff like the Nickelodeon game and things that get people into the sport altogether.
Yeah, I think it's just if your kid's like really showing interest in football,
Yeah, he's my co-manager.
Because,
you know what I mean? He's along for the ride.
What you don't want to do is force the kid in, and then you're just now I'm managing a team against children. And how
you
embarrassing
don't want to
is
be that guy. You never want to be that guy.
No, because either you win and you're supposed to, or you lost to children, and you have to never tell anyone about it again. So it's just once the interest level is there, and in third grade, that seems very reasonable.
All right, what's your take on Sunday when it comes to, let's say, an hour before kickoff? Because I struggle with this, especially, and I'm DFS obsessed, right?
Oh,
tinker, don't tinker. What's the thought process? What's the strategy? When do you lock in and say, I've got the guy, I've got the take, I'm not looking at weather forecasts or that? Are you a tinker or non-tinker?
We've done it all.
We've done it all. I think tinkering is usually a mistake. You want to be up to date on the information. You bring up weather. Sometimes that's going to change something if it's outrageously bad or an injury. Make sure you're, absolutely waiting till kickoff and setting your lineup. But more often than not, it's like, oh, I shouldn't have made that move. The last-second moves, they've burned me.
Yeah, if you're switching narratives, I think that's what it is. If you've told yourself a story on a few guys, then you convince yourself of the truth, and then you get right before kickoff and you start going back over the stories.
We all do it.
Yeah,
we all do it, but it's. I would definitely say it's a mistake 70% of the time.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely a mistake 70% of the time. I could not agree with that more. You guys are phenomenal when it comes to takes and predictions and analysis. That's why everyone watches, everyone listens, why I'm obsessed. I want to know your best fantasy football preseason call you've ever made.
Oh.
And
I've
one
got
that
easy
you
one,
want
yeah.
back as well.
Oh, well, that's another story. I was going to say my favorite all-time preseason call was Arian Foster of the Houston Texans, because he was buried.
It's a good one.
He was buried on a depth chart. It's like my greatest victory lap of all time, and it also added, like, I took him. You know what I mean? It wasn't just a take. It was like, this guy, look, I did it, and then I benefited from it. So it was like, he's like my all-time favorite fantasy player simply because of how that worked out on the positive side.
When you get to call your own shot on something that's rare and then you're right, oh, the glory. Oh, the glory. For me, I would say, and actually it's me and Andy, we saw the same thing at the same time when backup quarterback Kurt Warner was dominating. He was dominating in preseason.
Yeah, when Matt Leinart was supposed to be the starter.
When Matt Leinart was supposed to be the starter, he was just so good that it was like I rushed to the waiver wire to pick up Kurt Warner, and lo and behold, I saw that like minutes before Andy got him, he went on. Did you win a championship that year with Kurt Warner? I mean, it was really bad. But that one was fun to see, to witness, to rush to action. Sadly, it worked out for you and not me, but that was really cool.
I do have an answer on the terrible one. It was Dante Pettis of the San Francisco 49ers, who was absolutely on fire
to end the rookie year.
To end the rookie year, and then all of a sudden we're getting to the point, we do these My Guys every year on the show where we have to plant our flag, and I finally say the name. And then, like, the next 2 weeks couldn't have been worse press for Dante Pettis. I have to, the only time in this show we've withdrawn a recommendation, but he is forever attached to my name, and I regret it.
Oh, I mean, there's just so many.
Okay.
Let me talk about how great I am. We got this.
You have to be last year. It has to be Christian McCaffrey.
That one felt good, but it's like everyone just knew McCaffrey's good, but my chips were all in. One I am extremely proud of was we had our bold predictions show, which is where you're saying things that you think they can happen, but it's a spicy meatball. And 2019, Melvin Gordon was the starting running back of the Los Angeles Chargers, or were they might have been San Diego, I don't know. And there was the undrafted free agent Austin Eckler, who was starting to make some noise. And I went on bold predictions, and I said Austin Eckler is going to be a top 12 running back this year. Not drafted anywhere near that. And Melvin Gordon held out for 4 games, and then Austin Eckler ends up breaking out and breaking fantasy, where he ends up being the number 6 overall running back on the season.
That's a good one.
That's a terrific call. All right, I want to get your take on this. And we've had Pat Surtain for my son's league pick who is going to get the first pick this year. And I argue with my son about this all the time, and my opinion has changed through the years. 12-person snake draft. What's the best spot to pick?
Number 1.
It changes every year.
Yeah, every year it's different. Some years there's 5 all in the same tier, and then I want the 5th pick. I want the highest second round pick possible when I'm getting someone in the same tier. I personally, it's different for everybody. I put Jahmyr Gibbs in his own world. I think that he's going to score more fantasy points than any other running, maybe of all time. I think he could break, LaDainian Tomlinson's record. So I want him. And the nice thing about it, sometimes it's not worth it. But this year, the guys at the 2-3 turn, I really like. I don't look at the guys that are a few spots before and be like, man, I wish I was a couple spots higher. So if I can start with Gibbs and then have really quality players at 2-3, I don't mind it at all.
Yeah, a lot of years I feel like we say we want to be at as far back as the final upper tier running back.
Yeah.
Or maybe wide receiver. This year, when we've done mock drafts, being at 8, 9, 10, 11, it feels like the teams are not coming out as well as we'd like. Maybe it's just because we're having to stare down the decision on, is Jefferson going to be okay with Kyler Murray? Questions like that. But I'm with you this year. I think it is the number 1 overall spot. But it changes every single year, and obviously you want to maximize value.
How early should you take a quarterback this year in a draft? Give us your top 5 fantasy quarterbacks this year and a guy at quarterback that you have undervalued.
So the timing of this question is funny. We just did a top 10 tips and tricks for this year. And one of my points was I was bringing up the fantasy football is it's a market. Like it's a stock exchange. You need to kind of understand how the game actually works. And right now the market, the upper tier elite quarterbacks that years ago would be going in the first round and then some in the second round, they're going later. They're going in the middle rounds. And we have mentioned it's not the best to spend that high of a pick on a quarterback because of the opportunity cost for the rest of your team, because of the rest of the market. But now you can get guys like Jaden Daniels in the 5th round. You can get Jalen Hurts in the 5th, sometimes even the 6th round, guys who can be real elite difference makers at the position. So we're staying open to those. There's later round guys that are very fun. Like I think Trevor Lawrence that's
a good one.
Being massively undervalued right now. We're all so caught up in arguing it's Parker Washington. You're like, no, it's Jacoby Myers. No, I think Brian Thomas resurges this year. All those points go to Trevor Lawrence at the end of the day, and he ended the season on fire. After the bye week, Trevor Lawrence was like a top 3 fantasy quarterback, but he's not being drafted that way. So he's an undervalued guy, but we're open to taking a quarterback in the 5th round this year.
Yeah, I think you can take quarterback wherever. They're not overpriced this year throughout the draft. But to give you my top 5 in a 4-point per passing touchdown league, my 5th quarterback is definitely the one I think is undervalued, and I would love to draft him later. My top 5 in that format goes Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, and Jackson Dart.
Goodness.
In a 4-point per passing touchdown league, there are only 3 guys in the league that can rush for 800 yards at the quarterback position. Lamar could do it. I don't think he does it at this point anymore. He was far away from it last year. Jaden Daniels can get back to it, but he's costing a much higher pick, and Jackson Dart can do it, and he is a 9th round option. So to me, it's tough because if you play that game and you wait and you lose out, then it's like, oh, man, I should have just taken Josh Allen. Great.
Right.
But I think he's one of the best values in the draft because he can break fantasy with his legs.
Fascinated to get a take at the running back position. I'm high on Ashton Genty. I was very high on Ashton Genty last year. That obviously did not hit. My son drafted him in the 1st round over McCaffrey, but then he won the league. He got Jonathan Taylor round 2, Jackson Smith and Jigba round 3. He would draft him again. I would as well. Give us your top 5 running backs in fantasy football for this year and a couple of sleepers at the running back position.
Yeah, it's a great question. You always want to hit on. I mean, they can completely dominate and win your league. We have Gibbs at number 1 right now. Bijan sitting at 2. Christian McCaffrey, James Cook, Jonathan Taylor. That's our consensus top 5 right now. I think the guy that is exciting that could move into an upper echelon tier with the new home is Ken Walker in Kansas City. He's somebody that you want to have 300-plus opportunities, pushing hopefully 350. That's one name. I think Omarion Hampton in Los Angeles with the Chargers is another name we're paying close attention to because we like the play caller. We like what we saw on the field last year, but he was banged up and hurt and is still a tremendously young guy. And I love Genty too. I think we're on Team Genty. He is just expensive in fantasy compared to some of those other names where he has to perform right up to that draft cost.
Yeah, if you compare him versus Hampton, I think Genty is a better player than Hampton. The problem is the opportunity on the team around him. We look at of top 3 selected the first 3 rounds in fantasy football, those running backs that go, the ones that are on teams projected for fewer than 7.5 wins, they hit at like a 30% rate. So it's really scary to have a guy like Genty taken ahead of a guy like Hampton when you're on a bad team that you're not sure is going to win 6 games versus a team that could be a Super Bowl contender, has a good defense, has an improved offensive line, and has way more touchdown opportunities.
That's what makes Devon Achane really hard in Miami. The talent is amazing. The team not projected to win a lot of games. There's a handful of guys that we love, but they're on teams.
They're on bad teams.
They're on. I mean, Jeremiah Love in Arizona is a tough one. He's amazing, and he'll probably work out. Will it be this year? Will it be the second half? You want to be around the goal line, and that's the one advantage Hampton has.
Yeah, some later round running backs that are undervalued. I think DeAndre Swift is probably being drafted behind where he should be drafted. You've got some middle of the pack guys that Bill Krosky, Merritt.
Yes, that was the name I was going to bring up.
He might be able to break out. And really late, I like Jordan Mason to lead the Vikings, and he's a very late draft pick over
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
You guys referenced it before, Justin Jefferson, who I'm obsessed with. And I'm not a Kyler guy in general, but I think Kyler can be great for Justin Jefferson and with KOC in Minnesota. And I'm high on the Vikings this year, and I think Jefferson's going to be back to doing Justin Jefferson things. Give us your top 5 wide receivers. I do love Jefferson. I love CeeDee Lamb. I wouldn't be surprised if Nico Collins pushed higher on lists this year, and give us some sleeper wide receivers.
Yeah, the Jefferson thing is so interesting because we've seen, like, when Hopkins was in his prime, he had a year where he just disappeared from fantasy. They figured the quarterback thing out. Larry Fitzgerald in Arizona has done that. Our top 5 right now, Chase, Puka Nacua, JSN, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and CeeDee Lamb. That's the top 5 guys that we have, but Nico is right there. Jaden Higgins injury, moving him up to that, the target share is going to be really high. And then for our consensus ranks, Jefferson's the next man up in that group in a half PPR league. Some later round guys, Christian Watson, Mike brought him up earlier. I am also a believer, if healthy, without Dobbs, without Dontavian Wicks, with Tucker Kraft coming back slowly, could be a player to pay attention to. And then Marvin Harrison is a really low draft pick. And you said you believed. I said I believed. I'm coming around on Marv this year. Chris Godwin in Tampa Bay.
That's a great one.
I mean, he's just forgotten.
Yeah.
Right? Emeka Ibuka is the exciting, fun player to
But
talk
he might have
about.
turf toe. We don't know what's going on.
He might have turf toe. So it's one of those things where you got to pay attention to value. And fantasy players, we get tired of certain names and they get discounted. And then look for Alec Pierce to come back late in the season. I'd throw that out there, too.
Yeah.
And one other name to throw out, Dejon Stribling, the rookie wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, been getting a ton of buzz. And all their wide receivers are just – Mike Evans is dealing with his 10th injury since getting to San Francisco. Ricky Pearsall's out for the year. They lost Juwan Jennings. They got to throw the ball somewhere. It's good offense, and he's been getting a lot of buzz. He's so late in drafts right now.
All right, last one for you guys. How soon in a draft this year can I say the name Brock Bowers and give us some tight ends that are going to make owners look smart?
Honestly,
second round is perfectly fine for Brock.
Absolutely, it's totally fine. But I am personally willing to take him at the back of the first round. I think when you get there, there are guys that all of a sudden you switch from known perfect commodities to questions. We bring up Genty, and it's like, okay, I see how it could not work for him. I don't see how it doesn't work for Brock Bowers, and if he is the number 1 or number 2 tight end, you're not going to regret that pick. So I know you're supposed to take him in the second. I'm okay at the end of the first. As far as a tight end, I'll give one name. The other guys can give a name. Dalton Kincaid. He is a super good tight end who has been very, very injured. He only played 38% of the snaps last year, but on a yards per route run basis, he was number 1 in the league. So if he's actually healthy and he appears healthy, why not take a shot at the Bills' offense, for a talented tight end?
Yeah, I was just saying my late round guy is going to be it's Dallas Goedert in Philadelphia because Mekhi Lemons hasn't had much time at training camp. A.J. Brown is obviously gone, and whenever A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith missed games, Goddard was obviously the beneficiary. We haven't heard anything about Eli Stowers this offseason, so I think that's a sneaky one.
And I'm going with Juwan Johnson of the New Orleans Saints, who, last year, Nick Underhill's he's an amazing beat reporter for the Saints, and he was telling us Juwan Johnson is going to be involved more than people realize. And he finishes as the tight end 10. And with Jordan Tyson coming in, I was kind of concerned, can Juwan really command more target share? Well, now Jordan Tyson's missing at least 2 months. And this is an at least, where his hamstring situation is now into a scary red zone of, do we end up losing an entire rookie season? I think Tyler Shuck is the truth. Once he took over as a starter, we call it the 17-game pace like the production he put up. His 17-game pace was over 4,200 passing yards, and that was without Jordan Tyson. That was with Chris Olave and Juwan Johnson. So he is a player to me he's already had fantasy success, and the opportunity around him just got better. And the aforementioned Nick Underhill he been banging the drum saying Juwan Johnson looks awesome yet again in this year's training camp. So if you miss on everybody, I think you can, with your last pick, take Juwan and have a guy who's at least going to get you through the first few weeks of the season.
Absolutely. Mike, Jason, Andy, you guys are absolutely the best. That was so much fun. And a reminder to my Schein Squad, the Fantasy Footballers, the #1 fantasy football podcast. Make sure you catch them on SiriusXM, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, and their ultimate draft kit, which includes the tier-based rankings, 100-plus player profiles, and other resources to help you win your league. It's available right now, thefantasyfootballers.com. You guys are the best. We appreciate the time. Have a great season, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Sounds good. Take care.
Thanks for having us.
Coming up next, Fernando Tatis absolutely owned the Mets last night at Citi Field. Plus, we've got the latest on the Dodgers and the Yankees. Also, would you rather be an athlete or an actor? More to come on Schein Time. Did you hear the groan from the crowd at Citi Field when Fernando Tatis robbed that grand slam from Francisco Lindor last night? I would make this case. This was the single best performance by a baseball player all season long. I thought what Tatis did against the Mets was jaw-dropping. That was as sensational a defensive play as you could have. And it really just sucked the life out of the stadium. And, the Mets have been hot, stunningly, since the trade deadline. San Diego has also been on fire. They're currently the 6th team, and they're in the playoffs if the season ended today. And I really think that the Padres are going to make the playoffs, and I think they're going to be a force, and they're going to be a factor in the playoffs. And, hell, I wouldn't even rule out if they beat the Dodgers in the first round of the postseason. Tatis also in the game, hit a couple of home runs. So I would absolutely believe that this was as great a performance as you could have for any player. It was just show-stopping, and I love when he did the mean mug. He knew he had his moments. It was his time to shine. I loved every single second of it. Fernando Tatis, first half of the season, batting average in the toilet. I thought in the second half, he's been on fire when Tatis is doing his thing. Look, and he can rub you the wrong way if he's not on your team. I love Fernando Tatis. I love his energy. I love his game. I love his style. I love his bat. I love his glove. I love his arm. I love everything about Fernando Tatis. That was really cool stuff. loved it when you take a look at Fernando Tatis robbing a grand slam and hitting a couple of bombs last night for the Padres. My Yankees got the win last night, and Carlos Rodon's return to the hill. Rodon, 4 innings, gave 1 run, struck out 4. But how about our guy George Lombard Jr.'s defense shining once again? Trent Grisham drove in all 3 runs for the Bombers. 3-1 win for the Yankees in Baltimore, and the Orioles had been hot. They took a bunch of games against Tampa, and Lombard Jr.'s defense was unbelievable. Loved it. And so did Rodon. When you saw Lombard go into the hole and make an unbelievable play, which is the norm, you saw Rodon, didn't have to be a classic lip reader to understand what he was saying. You know, basically saying, I absolutely love this mother bleeper. I can't get enough. I'll tell you, though, I live for Lombard Jr. Absolutely love his defense, love his approach to the plate, love when he goes opposite field, love his arm, love his range, love his glove. I also can't fully love it because every time I watch him play, I think of how Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone refused to bring this guy up all season long, and we as Yankees fans had to watch that loser Anthony Volpe at shortstop. Can you imagine what would have transpired if Volpe was in last night? He would have taken that ball in the hole and kicked it into the dugout. He would have taken it and threw it into Boog's Barbecue in right field. I mean, that is just atrocious. The fact that because of Boone and Cashman and their clueless and their ego, we have to watch Volpe all season long at shortstop. Lombard is a breath of fresh air. I love this guy. Rodon, I mean, you know, basically getting all jazzed up last night because he hasn't had a guy like that at shortstop since he's been a pitcher for the Yankees. Because he had to deal with Volpe. Out west to the Dodgers. We talked about it on Schein Time yesterday. The struggles of closer Edwin Diaz. Well, yesterday, the Dodgers placed Edwin Diaz on the injured list with an inflated ERA. Well, technically they called it a neck injury, but I'm going to call it inflammation of the earned run average. 12. What a disaster. Diaz previously missed 3 months after having surgery to remove the loose bodies from his pitching elbow. Suffice to say, the Dodgers cannot rely on him at any point, and it's a mess. Now, there is some good news, obviously, for L.A. They won again last night. It's just the Rockies, but Dodgers had been, so bad for so many weeks, under 500 since July 1st. You have to be able to win these games, have to be able to take care of business. Shohei Ohtani, another homer, also threw another bullpen session, so that counts as a good thing here for Los Angeles. But listen, Ohtani, number 30 on the season at the plate. I still believe PCA is the National League MVP, but that is great news here for the LA Dodgers. But wait, there's more. Cincinnati Bengals rookie defensive back Zaire Wright's walking away from his shot at football's biggest stage to pursue his other passion, an acting career. Wright's an undrafted free agent who played at USC in Nebraska, told Bengals coach Zach Taylor of his decision over the weekend. Now, his acting resume includes roles in 7 films and television shows, most notably as LeBron James's son in the 2021 movie Space Jam: A New Legacy. So what's the better career, the athlete or the actor? Well, I think it depends what level of actor and athlete you happen to be. If you're right, yeah, I get it. It's a little safer to go play in, go be an actor as opposed to playing in the National Football League. More job security. And, obviously, you think of actors who always want to be athletes, athletes who always want to be actors. Good luck to Mr. Wright. Obviously, when it comes to acting, he's got the right stuff. As a professional athlete, not so much. You always get one random thing during training camp. Professional football player saying, I'm good, I'm going to go act. Wasn't on my bingo card. That's the show. If you miss any portion of the show, just do what I do and watch it over and over and over again. Go to our YouTube page at Schein Time. Make sure you go there and like it, subscribe, tell your friends to subscribe, tell your mom to subscribe, tell your mom I say hello while you're there. And we'll see you tomorrow on Schein Time.